Hi everyone, and welcome to Psych for Psycho. You're with me again, Priya, and today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is how do you actually become a registered psychologist? This sounds like something that's very obvious, but I bet a lot of people don't actually know how do you legally become a psychologist. And that's troubling because, going through a 4 years or 3 years degree, depending on whether you're a psychological science or Bachelor of Arts, that can be quite scary to know that at the end you might not become a psychologist. So before we start about how this pathway works, I want to remind you how important it is to understand this system and this pathway. Just because you will be investing so much time and so much money into this journey and this pathway to become a registered psychologist, and a lot of people not until the second year or sometimes third year when they realize, crap, I'm not going to be able to be registered, and that's difficult. So how these things work is basically, I'm going to put down a link to the APS so that you can see the chart and everything and you can understand this better. But the common pathway is that you go through a 4 years degree, so basically doing 3 years undergrad and then extra honors year with it, which is your 4th year. And then after that, as I mentioned, you're not a psychologist yet. If you want to be registered, you will need to do your master, which basically is quite competitive to get in, especially if you want to go into clinical psychology, and I think a lot of people already know that. And after you do 2 years of your master, which will include things like your placements, your research thesis, then you can come out and become registered as a general psychologist. So be mindful that you're not a specialist yet. Even though you're doing, let's say, clinical psychology, a master, you can't call yourself clinical psychologist yet with the master. Or if you do an organizational psychology, you can't complete your master and call yourself organizational psychologist. And if you want to become a registered specialized psychologist, which is basically wanted to be called a sports psychologist, an organizational psychologist, or a clinical psychologist, you will have to do an extra 2 years of endorsement. And in this endorsement period, hopefully you will be working in some sort of organization or work in some clinic, and you can hopefully find a mentor or a supervisor who will be supervising you throughout those 2 years. And after you have completed an endorsement program, then you'll get your specialist title. So obviously, if you calculate that, that's 4 years of undergrad, including honors, and then 2 years of master, and then another 2 years of endorsement. So obviously, if you imagine 8 years, that's without any interruption, without taking a break, and you're like kind of from undergrad, you got accepted straight to master right away. You don't have to reapply. So it has to be like a very smooth transition all the way through. And obviously, sometimes things happen with life, and sometimes you don't get into the master, and that might take even longer than 8 years. It might take up to 10 years or whatever. So this is a serious consideration and commitment, and you really have to think about it carefully. So if you're thinking about doing a psychology degree, it's really great that you're listening to this video and looking for more information about this. If you're already into your second or third year and you just realize this, is really good idea to really have a think about what kind of thing you actually want to do after you graduate. Is it kind of other company works or other things that you might be interested in outside psychology, or do you want to keep committing to do the master or PhD or supervision? Obviously, according to the APS chart, there are more pathways that you can go through, but the most common one would be going through the master and sometimes doing the dual master and PhD. And then if you want a specialized title, you can do less amount of time, which is 1.5 years instead of 2 years of supervision. But these two are the most common pathway to go. The other pathway are quite tricky these days, so if you are considering other pathway, I really recommend you talk to a lot of people and people in the industry, people who can potentially mentor you or whatever as well. So I hope this helped, and if you have any question or you want to know more about anything, just let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.